Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to tackle something I think a lot of us have probably wondered about.
Okay.
Why haven't ebooks completely taken over? I mean, come on.
All right.
They're so convenient. You can carry like a zillion books in your pocket.
Exactly.
They're often cheaper, at least they should be in theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yet so many of us still gravitate toward those, physical books.
The paper and ink?
Paper and ink. The real deal.
Yeah.
So, to help us unpack this a little bit, we're diving into some research today by Gedas, Kučinskas, and Indrė Pikturnienė.
All right.
And the title is a mouthful.
Okay.
Willingness to buy digital and physical books. Impact of price fairness perceptions on different price levels and content of books.
Wow.
So quite a title.
Yeah, they cover a lot.
But it's a fascinating paper.
It is.
And, one of the things that it kind of gets at right away is this idea that, okay, so maybe it's not just about the price tag itself, but it's how fair that price feels.
Uh-huh.
And that got me thinking.
Okay.
Have you ever, been in a bookstore?
Oh, yeah.
Browsing around.
Absolutely.
See a book you want, you're like, oh,
yeah.
I wonder if it's cheaper as an ebook.
Yeah.
So you check it out on your phone, and then you still end up back at the physical copy.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
Me too. So what's going on there?
Well, this research actually found that, people consistently place a higher value on physical books.
Okay.
Even when they have a free digital option.
Interesting.
So there's something about that physicality that we just seem to crave.
So why is that, though?
Yeah.
What is it about the physical book that just makes us want it more?
I think part of it's that sensory experience, The weight of the book in your hand, the texture of the paper.
Right.
That smell, like that new book smell, or even like an old book smell.
Right.
Those all kind of contribute to a sense of ownership and connection that's really hard to replicate digitally.
I see. So it's more than just the words on the page.
Exactly. It's that whole experience. And there's research that actually backs this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some studies that have found that the sense of touch is actually linked to feelings of ownership.
Interesting. So just the act of holding something makes us feel like it's more ours.
Exactly. And that might explain why we're willing to shell out a little more cash for something we can actually physically hold.
It's almost like the physical book becomes a part of us in a way,
Yeah.
Like an extension of ourselves.
I think you're right. It ties into this idea of the extended self, which was coined by a researcher named Russell Belk.
Okay.
And it's basically this idea that we incorporate possessions into our sense of identity.
Interesting.
And books, especially physical books, with all those stories and knowledge.
Right.
They're prime candidates for becoming part of who we are.
It's like, look at this impressive bookshelf I have. This is me.
Exactly. It's like a statement.
Yeah.
A reflection of your tastes and interests.
Okay. So that explains the, emotional connection?
Yeah.
But where does price come into all of this?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This idea of price fairness comes in.
Okay.
The research distinguishes between two types of fairness.
Okay.
Outcome price fairness.
Right.
And procedural price fairness.
So break that down for me.
Okay, so outcome price fairness is basically about whether the price seems like a good deal compared to other options.
Okay.
Like, is the ebook priced reasonably compared to the physical copy?
Right.
And then procedural price fairness.
Yeah.
That focuses on whether the pricing process itself feels fair.
Got it.
So, are the costs and profit margins behind that price justified? Do they make sense?
So it's not just about the number on the price tag.
No, not at all.
It's about the whole story behind it.
Exactly. And what this research found is that outcome price fairness actually has a much stronger influence on people's willingness to buy ebooks.
Really? So even if we know, logically, that ebooks are cheaper to produce and distribute, we still hesitate if the price just doesn't feel right compared to the physical book.
Exactly.
It's almost like we're wired to think differently about digital stuff versus physical stuff, even if it doesn't really make sense economically.
Right. And that's probably connected to this idea of naive accounting.
Naive accounting. Now, I'm intrigued.
So psychologists like Kahneman and Tversky, they've explored this idea.
Okay.
And it basically means we judge prices based on our perceived gain or loss rather than the actual production costs.
I see.
So even though we might know ebooks should be cheaper because they don't have printing and shipping and all that.
Yeah.
Our gut might be telling us, hey, I'm getting the same content. Why am I paying so much less?
It's like we instinctively put more value on the thing we can hold.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it's the same words.
Right. And what's even more interesting is that procedural price fairness. So that's the perceived fairness of the pricing process itself. You know, like, is it ethical?
Mm-hmm.
It actually had a much weaker effect on people's buying decisions.
So it's like, even if we think ebooks should be cheaper to make.
Right.
We don't always actually want to pay less for them.
Exactly. It's a bit of a contradiction.
It is. Like, you'd think if we believed the costs were lower,
yeah,
we'd be more picky about the price.
Logically, you'd think so.
So what explains that?
Well, I think that's where the content of the book itself starts to play a role.
Okay.
This research found that people are way more willing to pay a premium for physical copies of, like, long reads or classic literature.
That makes sense. Like, I can totally see myself wanting a beautiful physical copy of, like, War and Peace.
Yeah.
But maybe not so much for, like, a quick beach read.
Exactly. It's like certain types of books.
Yeah.
They're seen as more valuable, more worthy of that physical form, almost like an artifact.
Right. It's not just a book. It's like a statement.
Right. Like a status symbol almost.
Okay. So it's about more than just the experience of holding the book.
Yeah.
It's also about what that physical object represents.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a really important takeaway from this research.
Okay, hit me with it.
Priming.
Priming? What's that?
It's basically how the way prices are presented can actually influence our perception of value.
Oh, interesting.
So they found that setting a higher initial price for a book, whether it's physical or digital, can actually lead to a higher willingness to pay overall.
So, like, if I see a book listed for, like, $30, and then it goes on sale for $20, I'm more likely to think it's a good deal and buy it.
Exactly.
Even if I might have thought $20 was too much initially.
It's a classic psychological trick called anchoring.
Anchoring, okay.
Yeah, we see that higher initial price.
Right.
And it becomes like an anchor for our perception of value.
I see.
So everything else we see after that is compared to that initial price.
So the sale price seems like a steal.
Exactly. We feel like we're getting a bargain.
That's fascinating. So publishers really have to be smart about how they present prices then.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when they're selling both physical and digital versions.
Right, because it's almost like they're playing with our perception of value.
Exactly. It's like a delicate dance between perceived value and actual cost.
They got to find that sweet spot.
Yeah, where the price feels fair to consumers.
Right.
But also reflects the value they want to convey.
A tough balance.
It is, but it's also what makes this whole thing so interesting.
Yeah, it really is.
But, you know, this research also raises some questions about the future of ebooks.
Oh, how so?
Well, if people are willing to pay more for physical copies of certain kinds of content, what does that mean for the long-term perception of ebooks?
Right. Like, if physical books become more associated with, you know, like highbrow content or collectible content, could ebooks just become the go-to for quick, disposable reads?
It's definitely a possibility.
And if that happens, how does that affect their perceived value and pricing in the long run?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely need to explore further.
All right, well, stay tuned, everyone, because we're going to dive deeper into those questions.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to unpack.
And explore the potential future of ebooks.
Absolutely.
And how all of this might play out in the long run.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question to think about.
It is.
What happens to ebooks if they're seen as, like, disposable, you know?
Yeah, right. Like, are we going to be less willing to spend money on them?
Exactly.
Or could we even see a shift to, like, I don't know, maybe subscription services taking over?
Like those all-you-can-eat music streaming services.
Exactly. Like, could we see something similar for books where you pay a monthly fee?
Right.
And you get access to tons of ebooks.
It's already happening to an extent.
It is. Yeah, you've got Kindle Unlimited and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But maybe that becomes, like, the dominant model.
Yeah, especially if ebooks become more about, like, quick reads.
Right.
Shorter, more easily consumable content.
And if that happens, I guess this whole price fairness thing...
It doesn't go away.
No, it just shifts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because then instead of comparing the ebook price to the physical book...
Right.
We're comparing it to the subscription fee.
Exactly. Like, am I reading enough each month to justify this cost?
Right. And that makes me think, like, those platforms are really going to have to step up their game.
Oh, for sure.
To make those subscriptions feel worthwhile.
It can't just be about offering a huge library of books anymore.
No, it's got to be more than that.
You need high-quality content. Maybe focusing on genres or authors that really fit that quick read format.
Right. And probably super personalized recommendations, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That you can actually find stuff you like in this giant sea of books.
Exactly, because who has time to wade through all that?
No one.
Yeah.
And I bet we'd also see more features like, I don't know, maybe built-in reading trackers, or even like virtual book clubs.
Totally.
Stuff that adds value beyond just the content itself.
Exactly. It's about enhancing the experience.
Yeah, making it more social, maybe.
You're sure.
Because we're social creatures, right? We like to talk about what we're reading.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's just online.
Right, right.
And who knows, maybe we'll even see interactive elements within the ebooks themselves.
Oh, that's interesting. Like what?
Well, imagine like embedded discussion forums or author Q&As.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Right. Like blurring the lines between passive reading and active engagement.
It makes me think of those choose-your-own-adventure books we had as kids.
Oh, yeah, I love those.
Like, imagine if an ebook let you make choices that influence the story.
That would be amazing.
It'd be like a whole new level of personalization.
Right, and it could lead to some really creative storytelling possibilities.
And who knows, maybe some of those technological advancements could even, like, spill over.
Yeah.
And influence how audiobooks evolve.
Oh, that's a great point, because audiobooks, that's a whole other world.
It is.
When we talk about value and perception.
How do we even begin to compare, like, the value of an audiobook to a physical book or an ebook?
It's a tough one.
It is. Like, is it just about convenience, or is there something more to it?
I mean, for me, I connect with audiobooks in a way that's totally different from reading text.
Same here. It's like having a professional storyteller right there in your ear.
Exactly.
It's so intimate.
It is, and you get that emotional connection to the narrator's voice.
Totally. It adds a whole other layer to the storytelling.
And that makes me wonder, does that emotional connection influence how much we're willing to pay for audiobooks?
That's a great question.
It has to be a factor, right?
I think so. And as audiobooks get more and more popular,
right,
I'm sure we'll see more research looking into exactly that.
It feels like we've just opened up this Pandora's box of questions about the future of reading.
But that's the fun part, isn't it? It is. I mean, it's so exciting to think about how technology is going to keep shaping how we consume stories.
For sure.
And this research gives us a way to understand, like, those evolving perceptions of value.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that this isn't a battle between digital and physical.
No.
It's about figuring out what readers truly value, whether it's the feel of a book, the convenience of an ebook, the emotional connection of an audiobook.
Or even just, like, the social aspects of reading.
Exactly. It's all part of the equation.
It's a complex landscape out there.
It is, but it's a fascinating one.
It really is.
And as we move forward, I think it's important to remember that the future of books isn't about one format winning over the others.
Right.
It's about all of us, readers, consumers, everyone, figuring out how we want to experience stories.
And that's a journey we're all on together.
It is, and it's an exciting one.
Speaking of journeys, before we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to hear from you, our listeners.
Oh, definitely. Tell us what you think.
What are your thoughts on all this?
What format do you prefer? Physical books, ebooks, audiobooks?
What influences your choices?
Let us know in the comments or on social media.
We love hearing your perspectives, because at the end of the day, this is the conversation we're all having together.
Absolutely.
As we navigate this crazy world of books and storytelling. Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have.
From, like, the feel of a physical book to the rise of those subscription services and even the magic of audiobooks. But before we sign off, there's one last thing I wanted to bring up.
Oh, okay. What's that?
So we talked a ton about, like, you know, what makes us think something's worth the price.
Right, like of different factors.
Exactly, the formats, the pricing models, all that stuff. But what about the value of reading itself?
Interesting point.
Like, regardless of whether it's a physical book, an ebook on a Kindle, or listening to an audiobook, there's something inherently valuable about just taking the time to read.
Absolutely.
Like self-care, you know?
It is like a journey.
It is a journey of discovery.
Yeah, into different worlds and minds.
Exactly.
Different perspectives.
Yeah, and that value, it goes beyond the format or the price.
Totally. It's something within us.
It is.
That love of stories.
That connection.
That need to connect with the human experience, you know?
Through words.
Exactly. And that's powerful.
It is. And technology might change how we access those stories.
Yeah.
But that fundamental need to connect with narratives, to learn, to grow through language.
That'll always be there.
It will.
It's human nature.
It is. So as you're out there exploring the world of books, you know, whether you're in a bookstore, online, browsing an app, whatever.
Whatever it is.
Just remember to savor the journey.
I love that. Savor the journey.
It's about more than just the stuff, the format, the price.
Yeah.
It's the magic of reading itself.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of books.
It's been a pleasure.
And the ever-changing landscape of reading.
Until next time.
Happy reading, everyone.